back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the contents in this channel. I'd like to start by thanking all my subscribers, my viewers, for all your respect, mindfulness, kindness, everything. I love reading your comments because you'll have so many interesting thoughts and ideas, speculations. This is one case that nobody could say that my theory is right or wrong because nobody knows exactly what happened on that awful night, 13th November 2022. May the four victims rest in peace, condolence to the families, and may the correct justice be served someday. Maybe by God Almighty, definitely by God Almighty, one day justice will be served. No human being is entitled to lose their life in this manner or in any manner. I personally believe that some people took this upon themselves to unalive Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Zana. May they rest in peace. For this quadruple to have happened, I personally do not believe that this is one person involved and that his name is Brian Kohlberger. If it was one man like John Wick involved, I could have said, yes, you're right. We're not talking about Rambo. We're not talking about John Wick. We're not talking about James Bond. We're talking about a 27-year-old young man that suffers allegedly of ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So the question is, could he have done it? Is he playing a mind game with us all? And he could have done it, allegedly. Or is the college fraternities and the students and the real suspects playing a game with us, a mind game, and they're blaming it on the weakest link? Which one is it? Today I'd like to talk about a couple of things. And these are all my opinions and my thoughts. Kohlberger applied for this job in Washington Pullman as a teacher assistant. Obviously comes with his PhD program. So I would assume that when somebody is going to join a program like that, is going either overseas or to another state, I'm sure they've done a proper background check on the person. I'm sure they've done a physical health check on the person. And I'm sure they've done especially a mental health check on the person. I'm saying that as a licensed mental health counselor, a mental health check is the most important thing because you can't be having anyone teaching your children just because they have a teaching degree. There are many things that many careers, many kind of jobs have to actually take a mental health evaluation to get the job or to keep the job. Teaching should be one of them. Lawyers should be one of them, honestly. People under a lot of pressure at work. What is interesting that many people don't even know is that as mental health counselors, we have to go to a mental health check so that we are not in something called a burnout. That we just say we don't overburden ourselves with too much work. just say a client. If I take too many clients for myself and just say they have different vulnerable problems, really sad, triggering problems, imagine listening to a couple of patients a day with each one having their own difficult journey. And then imagine me taking the work with me home to finish the rest of my work, just have my notes at home. That is unhealthy. That's a burnout for me, and that's not good. As a practitioner, I wouldn't be giving my client the best service they're entitled to, mental health assistant. So I can imagine when Mr. Koberger applied for this job, I'm sure they must have taken a mental health evaluation. If they didn't do that, that should be illegal. But then let's not forget, when Koberger allegedly got this job and moved to Washington Pullman, it was in the epidemic times. So I'm sure y'all remember they weren't doing the face-to-face appointments. The whole world was literally scared of looking at each other even. There's that 6 meter distance and all that crap. So y'all get my point. What I'm trying to say is that if Koberger got this job from Washington Pullman, my question is, did they take a mental health evaluation? Because how could they put their own students in danger? Washington Pullman students. Y'all are literally getting anyone just because they have good grades to be in charge of your students? That doesn't make sense. So what I'm trying to say is either Koberger had these symptoms, just say if he was suffering of antisocial personality disorder symptoms or any other mental health disorder symptoms, they would have seen it. Like the police, that is interesting, the Washington police chief said that when Koberger applied for the job, he didn't give him something. He said, I didn't give him the job because it had to do with loyalty, or he didn't trust him, basically. But think about that. He didn't give him the job. That is discrimination, actually. He didn't give him the job because of what? His looks? How would he know if Koberger is loyal or disloyal? Did he do a loyalty test on him? What did he ask him to go and rob a shop and check if he would do it for him and be loyal? Because it doesn't make sense. When I heard that sentence in the interview in the Amazon Prime episode, I found that to be really strange. The fact that the chief is admitting that I did not give Koberger the job because he didn't seem to be loyal. So my point being is that means he already knew that there was something odd about Koberger. So if you are discriminating him in such a sense, and you knew that there was something wrong with Koberger, and you're the chief of Pullman, and Koberger works actually in Washington Pullman University and WSU, and we know for a fact that Koberger lives there in Washington Pullman. Isn't it kind of strange that y'all didn't notify Idaho, Moscow, and notify the other states, or maybe even certain departments of the police office, to at least keep an extra eye out for him? This doesn't make sense. Y'all knew who Koberger was. Or is it the fact that y'all knew that Koberger is an intelligent young man He looks a bit weird. He says at people, and because he looks a bit weird and looks a bit different, and y'all are not sure of what he struggles with, y'all thought, why don't we use him as the faulty guy? Just saying. Because y'all actually offered him a job where y'all said that female students are becoming and complaining and saying that he is not giving them good grades and that he was discriminating female students. So this doesn't make sense to me. Why didn't y'all send Koberger for a mental health evaluation so that a therapist could have done some therapy and checked where he saw sand with women, what his relationship are with females, if he could be possibly a danger or not to females. The therapist would have taken it up with the supervisor and with the psychiatrist. The mental health evaluation team would have come to a conclusion. But that chance wasn't ever taken. So y'all decide, at times y'all believe he's safe, he's all right. He's allowed to teach a whole classroom. There's nothing wrong. And then there's other times you'll believe like, no, he was a weirdo, so I couldn't give him the job. I don't think he was going to be loyal. Make that make sense. This does not make sense. I hope that all of the students Koberger was teaching, whether he was a good teacher or bad teacher, I wish them and their parents sue Washington, WSU, yeah. They should sue them, Washington Pullman, for putting their students in jeopardy. In every job, especially jobs where you're attending, like teachers, counselors, doctors even, nurses, there has to be some kind of counseling done to find out the state of what, like basically to find out what kind of state of mind the person is in, instead of assuming. Up to today, we all are sitting here and guessing. Nobody knows Koberger's mental health evaluations. We don't even know if he actually suffers of ASD. We don't know if he suffers of bipolar. He could be suffering of antisocial personality disorder. We don't know what he suffers of. But all I know is they are still not giving him his proper rights, it looks like. Because it's written in the documents, in the court hearings, it's written that they took a neurologist test of him. And that obviously has to do with, I believe, that Koberger has a brain disorder, honestly. And I really do believe that he could have been born with a brain disorder, but most likely he could have got it genetically, but most likely, I personally believe that Koberger got the brain disorder from not only the traumas of being bullied and all that. I don't think you get a disorder directly. Only from that, it takes a lot to contribute to it. I personally think that Koberger got this brain disorder from the fact, if it's true, that he was allegedly misusing substances like heroin, that is a poison, and apparently was using it for 5 years. So what do you think could have happened? Obviously, it's going to mash up his brains. I really would love to know if Koberger got a mental health evaluation before he agreed to this plea deal. And another thing that I find really interesting when it comes to Koberger, if William Thompson is saying that Koberger did it, which he keeps on trying to convince us, if Koberger did it, then he deserves the DP. Why don't y'all go ahead? Take him to court. Because this was a heinous crime. Crimes. Y'all want this to be exposed. Y'all want to teach this young man and other people not to ever try doing this stunt again. So why don't y'all give him the DP? Why are y'all giving him a plea deal? Is it because y'all believe that y'all are going to lose? Is it because y'all know that the jury will have a hard time believing this nonsense? We have Ava, the young woman, telling us directly in the book. Ava mentions that she gave a police report. The police never even mentioned it, that there was somebody trying to get into Ava Wood's house. Think about that. And luckily her door was locked. This was on the 14th of October 2022. So that is literally 30 days